and welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And, Eric, it's always easy to be the Monday morning quarterback. This company should have done that, and maybe, if they have done the other thing, it would have been more successful. And oftentimes it's exactly that. Hindsight's 2020. But sometimes stupid is stupid and this is stupid. Bud, if it was in one of those like B comedy movies, teen oriented, you would think, okay, that's pretty funny or stupid. Bud Light has now a transgender individual endorsing them, and it's met with unanimous disapproval. I mean, a couple of things like who was involved in this decision? Do they even drink Bud Light, or are they at Chardonnay parties with Nancy Pelosi? Um, Totally out of touch. I would think that all of them, and it's not just politically, but just sound business decision making, should all be fired. The dumbest thing, again, everyone, you can be 20, hindsight's 2020 Monday morning quarterback. This is downright friggin' stupid, dumbass stupid. Your thoughts? And they tried to reverse it by like the next day reintroducing the Clydesdales. A little, too late. Go ahead.
Yeah, this was a ridiculous campaign
Dumbest
on
thing ever.
the part of Bud Light. And let's be clear about this though, because there's a lot of people trying to make it into an anti-trans moment. It's like, no, the problem was not that they had a transgender spokesperson. If you want a transgender spokesperson, that's fine. The problem was this was a transgender spokesperson that obviously never drank Bud Light. They insulted their target market with comments afterwards. Now, if you want to have a transgender individual representing Bud Light, give Caitlyn Jenner a call.
Okay, you
Okay.
just read my mind. You just read my mind, but it's bigger than that. Yes, you really did. Caitlyn Jenner, fine, but also the spokesperson was like effeminate. It was. I'm sorry, and again, I'm not getting into the political nuances. I'm just talking from a business standpoint. Who thought that this person was the ideal spokesperson to endorse a blue collar beer? Boggles the mind. They should all be fired.
Exactly. It is absolutely insulting to their target market. I mean, it's like hiring Shaquille O'Neal to be the pitchman for Lancome makeup. He obviously's never used it. He knows nothing about it. This is the same situation. This spokesperson knows nothing about Bud Light, never drank Bud Light. And I want to give a shout out to Youngling. Youngling is the oldest brewery in America. And not long after this, they tweeted a shot of their beer and stated point blank the longest running beer in America because it's good. And and that is what came down to the problem with Bud Light. Their their excuse was, well, we need to expand our reach. It's like, no, you don't need to expand your reach. You need to improve your beer.
Yeah, why don't you just expand your reach to pedophiles?
Yeah, I mean, this was absolutely ridiculous. It was
The
bad business. It was woke nonsense. And it's caused Bud Light's sales to drop by 10%.
and which is huge in business. I still think you think about the spokesperson never drinking Bud. I would suspect many people in upper management at Bud or Bud Light don't drink it either. Like I said, they're drinking Chardonnay, looking down on the fools that buy their beer in their mind. If they drank the beer, they're not in touch with their market. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, they're definitely not in touch with their market. And you're seeing that by the statement that senior management put out that stated that they didn't even know this was happening. They left this to the Bud Light brand, marketing team. Well, you know what? You need to pay attention to your business.
Yeah, and you let, which I was in product marketing and brand management. Yeah, little things like, you're going to work with, let's say, Ace Hardware chain on a Father's Day little promotion. Yeah, you let the underlings take care of that, but not your major brand identification initiative. No, you may kind of want to run that by the CEO. Hello?
Yeah, I mean
Hello, is anyone home? McFly, McFly. Yeah, so and
the
that's no
idea.
excuse. It's like there's a coach of a football team, or basically, oh, I didn't know that this was happening. I was in the locker room. Huh? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
the idea that they went with a social media influencer was absolutely ridiculous. The fact that they went with such a comic social media
There you
influencer,
go.
and I don't mean comic in, they're a comedian, they're funny. This is a pathetic influencer that is obviously out of touch with Bud's target market. And the target market that the influencer reaches, these folks aren't going to drink Bud Light. So this was an abject failure on every level.
Yes, not to belabor the point, it's comical, funny, but also indicative of the woke mentality, excuse me, that is permeated corporate America. It's not the only company. There's companies that you wouldn't believe that you're making nuts and bolts, and they've completely lost focus due to this intoxication with wokeness. Um, Moving on, what do you think of the Fox lawsuit? 787 million, I believe. Yes, close to $1 billion.
Yeah, they settled the the case is over. There was no finding of guilt in this. It was just a settlement, which, let's face it, that's all Dominion wanted anyway. They wanted the money. So I think
Yeah, but
honest
there's also more than the suggestion, and the paper trails pretty significant. When I may say paper trails, I mean the correspondence trails that Fox lied, and they knew they were lying.
right, but obviously Dominion didn't care about that because otherwise they'd have pushed it to trial. Dominion just wanted, because again, as far as I can tell in the settlement, Fox didn't admit to any wrongdoing.
Yeah, I know, but by kind of by you mean I wouldn't give up, almost $1 billion if I didn't think I was guilty. I believe that most people listening to or watching this story would come to the conclusion that Fox screwed up.
Maybe, but honestly, this was a good decision by Fox because this was almost half of what Dominion was actually seeking. And let's face it, Fox, if this had gone to trial, Fox would have lost whether or not the case was proven.
I agree with that.
So they saved themselves $800 million by settling and didn't admit to any wrongdoing. And nobody can say, well, they did wrong because now Fox has a settlement that they can point to and say, no, it was a nuisance lawsuit. There was no admission of guilt.
I guess from legalese that's correct, but I don't think it hasn't been the best couple of months for Fox. We'll just leave it at that.
Honestly, do you think anybody who's a loyal viewer of Fox is going to change their mind over this?
100% no.
Yeah, so Fox ended up getting the best of this.
And just to kind of move on, your analysis is correct. Going to trial would have been a circus horror show, and this will soon be under the rug.
Yep.
And believe me, if there's a lawsuit every time MSNBC bullshitted, the courts would be filled across the country.
Well,
So
I mean, remember, Rachel Maddow's already faced 2 defamation lawsuits, so this happens all the time. It's not going to affect anything long
that
term.
I do agree with. Hakeem Jeffries, the leading Democrat in the House, basically tied to some anti-Semitic endorsements, writings, going back even to his college days. But why is this important? Because it's the Democrats try to put the put it back in the cage, but to put the cat in the bag. But it always like whack-a-mole. It always comes out that basically anti-Semitism has permeated the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, I don't know that it's even a surprise anymore. There's been so much anti Semitism coming out of the Democrats, primarily the far left. But I think what's more damaging than even the comments of the far left is the silence of those not on the far left. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, all of these folks have been abjectly quiet about all of the anti-Semitism that has been coming out of their party. And I think it's because we've seen with our own eyes that Jews are going to keep voting Democrat no matter what they say.
Yeah, but there's some degree of integrity or lack thereof. Schumer Shift was
Oh,
on with
come
what's the nutcase from Minnesota. I think it's their responsibility to put their religious, their ideology ahead of their own political aspiration. But with despicable people like Schumer and others, that's never going to happen.
No, I mean, the idea that there's integrity in politics has gone out the window. And that's on both sides. It was absolutely stupid for them to make these comments. It is worse that they tried to uh, brush it under the carpet. But this is politics in 2023. There is no integrity from any of the people in office. And they're pushing towards their own little microcosms. Again, we keep repeating the fact about people getting news from the echo chamber. Well, guess what? The politicians are at the center of their own echo chambers. They're talking to a very limited constituency. They're making comments based on their constituency and what they want to hear, and that echo chamber has torn apart America.
There is no question about that. But it's permeated, uh, bias has permeated the media. Look at Elon Musk in some interviews talking about the government interfering with people's basically right to free speech.
Yeah, Elon Musk revealed that he found not just the US government, but foreign intelligence agents had access to your direct messages on Twitter. So if you thought you were saying something privately, you weren't. He also had an interview with the BBC that was absolutely brilliant, where the reporter claimed that Twitter had more hate speech now that Elon Musk had taken over. And Elon Musk said, "Show me. Where is this hate speech?" And the reporter was, "Well, people have said," it's like, "show it to me firsthand. Where is it?" And of course, the reporter could not show the hate speech because the fact of the matter is hate speech is down dramatically since Elon Musk took over.
Well, that's not the first time. Don Lemon said the same thing when he basically thinking there's not going to be a pushback. They didn't do the research, but Elon Musk is someone that you don't want to mess with in terms of having the facts.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem is these guys who are interviewing Elon think they're smarter than
That's
he is.
not.
And it's not, I mean, I'm not going to say Elon Musk is right about everything.
He's a
There've
lot
been,
smarter than Don Lemon.
yeah, there's been a lot of things he's done that I disagree with, that I think he should have done better or chosen a different path. But the fact that these reporters think they can get the goods on him is ridiculous. He can outthink them in a nanosecond.
No question about it. What do you think of the Bragg hearing basically being conducted right in his backyard? Any thoughts on that? First of all, your thoughts about the hearing, any traction to it, any impact, and how about it's right in his backyard?
But the fact that it was right in his backyard, I think this is a brilliant move on the part of the Republicans. Not just this one, but they've had hearings down at the southern border. They're doing this on a number of issues where they're taking the hearing and they're actually having it in the place that the problem is occurring. Now, this works well for two reasons. One, it makes it much easier for witnesses to show up because they're bringing the hearings to the witnesses rather than forcing the witnesses to travel to Washington, D.C. So you're getting people who are on the ground, who actually know what's going on, who have seen the problem firsthand. The second reason it works, and it's the reason that the Democrats are all up in arms saying, well, it's political theater. Yes, it is political theater because you are forcing the mainstream media to cover the problem. The mainstream media has downplayed the southern border, but when they had hearings there, they had to cover it. They've been downplaying the crime crisis, but when the hearing is actually in New York, they had to cover it. So I think that was brilliant. If you listened to the testimony of the witnesses, of the people who have been affected by the crime, you have to come to the conclusion that this is a major problem and it is the fault of these progressive Democratic
Soros sponsored,
DAs. Yeah,
Soros
Soros
sponsored.
sponsored DAs that do not want to prosecute crime.
Okay,
They
but
have,
on its face, doesn't this thing become a complete bullshit? The Bragg indictments. He doesn't prosecute rapists and subway thugs, but he's going after what, a 7-year-old misdemeanor.
yeah,
Totally disingenuous. What a bunch of bullshit.
it is, and of course, yeah, the Democrats are yelling that, oh, this is all about Trump. Well, part of it is about Trump because when you are taking violent crimes, violent attacks that should be charged as felonies, and you are converting them to misdemeanors so you don't have to prosecute them, and then you're taking a crime which is a misdemeanor that the statute of limitations has run out on, trying to tie it to a crime that you don't have the jurisdiction to prosecute. Yes, it shows that everything you're doing is about politics and you're not doing your job.
Does this indictment, as what General MacArthur say, swiftly or gradually go away, fade away like old soldiers? Or do you think it? I think it's going to start fading away. I just think it had its initial pop, and there's no Dershowitz, and other liberals have said there's just nothing here.
Yeah, there's nothing there. And I think I had questioned the decision in the first place, but now I'm starting to think this was actually the right decision. When the judge made the next hearing in December, I thought he was putting it off too long. I think now I'm thinking that was actually the right thing for him to do because it lets the circus fade away. And now Bragg is not going to be able to rely on massive public opinion to get Trump. Now he's going to have to rely on actual facts. And if he can't bring those to bear, I think the judge is going to dismiss.
I have a feeling you're correct, Dr. Lopkin. Now, speaking of hearings, though, Mayorkas, our esteemed cabinet member, like all of them, my God, what a pack of woof. Anyway, he's been grilled more than a well done hamburger over the last 3 weeks, and that continues. Even talks about his impeachment. Does he have a continued future, or does Biden let him cut him loose?
I don't think Biden's going to cut him loose. I think he's going to remain in position, even if they can prove um, crimes and misdemeanors. They can
Negligence.
impeach. They can impeach him in the House. It's never going to get
No, that's
any
yeah.
Democratic votes in the Senate, so it's not going to go anywhere. Honestly, I think knowing that the Senate will never remove him from office and Biden is not going to kowtow to the Republicans, the entire impeachment thing is a waste of time.
I don't think it's a waste of time because I think when you watch the hearings, it reflect more than reflects. It shines a bright light on how incompetent this bonehead is.
See, I don't think it does because the people watching the hearings have already decided that he's a bonehead. So you're not convincing anybody with these hearings. If if you're a diehard Democrat, you're convinced this is a political witch hunt. If you're a diehard Republican, you know he's an idiot and needs to be removed. But it's not going to happen. So you're not actually accomplishing anything with these hearings. That is the key. The hearings that we were just discussing on crime that happened in New York, New Yorkers know what's going on. Even if they're diehard Democrats, there comes a point where they know their lives are in danger if they don't make a change. And you saw that when Republicans picked up seats in New York in 2023, in 2022. So those hearings are important. The hearings on Mayorkas, they're not going to change anything. The White House is going to keep making excuses. Jean Pierre made the statement, well, Congress needs to provide more resources. They have the same resources they always did. They have more people coming over, and the only reason they have more people is because Biden got rid of Trump's policies. So these hearings aren't going to uncover anything, they're not going to make a difference. I think if the Republicans really want to take control in 2024, they need to focus on things that are going to have an effect. And this isn't one of them.
Agreed. Um, Speaking of Trump, as we just referred to in our last segment, his boost from he got a huge boost when the indictment first came down the pike. In fact, people that were lukewarm on him threw their, no pun intended, their hat into the ring in terms of supporting him. His That boost seems to be fading. Your thoughts?
It is fading. It was basically a knee jerk reaction to the politicalization of the judicial system. We've known this was happening for quite a while. But once you get past that initial shock, people start looking. And you're seeing now, especially with major Republican donors, they are looking at this going, you know what? A far right conservative candidate cannot win the general election. So you're seeing Trump's numbers start to go down. You're seeing DeSantis's numbers going down. DeSantis shot himself in the foot with that 6 week abortion ban in Florida because that one change, if DeSantis becomes the front runner of the Republicans, he's lost any shot of any moderate Democrats, most moderate Republicans, and any independents in the general because
Wait,
he
wait,
went.
I have to interject something about DeSantis. Um, he was walking on water, what, 4 months ago. It seems like he's maybe not the quintessential political operative that people once thought he is. He's made a lot of stupid decisions.
He has. And unfortunately, you're seeing the same thing now with Tim Scott. Tim Scott is a bright guy, but he has started with his exploratory committee. Everything he's said is about God. He is focused on getting that right wing conservative vote. And that's not the vote that's going to win a general election. We need centrist candidates who can say, look, we understand what the conservative edge of the party wants and needs. We accept that they have the right to have their point of view and we will protect their point of view. But we also have to protect the point of view of the center. And we need to find candidates, and I haven't seen one on either side of the aisle, that understand that if you are president of the United States, you are the president of the entire country, not your party. And
Well,
we
do you
have
think Biden should take notice of that?
Oh, Biden has been horrible with that. Trump was better, but not
Better.
great. Obama was horrible about that. Bush was good about that after 9/11. For I guess the remainder of his first term. Second term, he started forgetting it. But this is the problem. Everything now is party politics. We need, and this is why No Labels has been pushing a centrist party. They are registering with multiple states as a political party so that they can run candidates this year in local elections that are centrist. And quite frankly, if they succeed in 2023 and they can get a presidential candidate on the ballot in 2024, it will upend the election. I don't know who, I think honestly, it would probably push the Republican ahead because they're going to pull more Democratic votes away from the left. But that's going to upend everything when the parties need to remember that they are supposed to govern the country, not just their extreme constituents.
What do you think of the impact, if any, of RFK Jr. I guess throwing his hat in the ring and also being endorsed by soon to be ex quarterback Rodgers, who is a pretty conservative from Green Bay? Any thoughts on that?
I hope that he will get enough support to make a difference. There's already been left wing outrage about him. If you look him up on Wikipedia, the Wikipedia entry says, calls him an anti vaxxer, and he was a proponent of the conspiracy theory about a lab leak. It's like, guess what? It's not a conspiracy theory. It's turning out to be true, but the left is already out to destroy him.
I would agree. You'll never see the light of day. He's a great kid. I think he's got potential and what
I
maybe
I hope
America
so.
may need, but to get through the whack job, insane primary process with the whack job Democratic Party, good luck. I think probably I
See,
would say
actually, I
Karl Marx would be too conservative.
it does look that way now. I think at this point, though, the biggest contribution that RFK Jr. can make to the political process is to force Joe Biden to debate.
That would be must see TV. And let me just let me explain something to you. Yes, um, he's his mental ability has been so compromised over even this 2.5 year period that he would look like a superstar debater when he engaged Trump. I don't think he's even capable of that. And I'm not being facetious. I don't think he's capable of debate. I don't think he's capable of basically having a press conference. And I point to his trip to Ireland, where his gaps were monumental, confusing a certain like a soccer team with a terrorist organization, and then saying that yes, he believes that there'll soon be unification or one Ireland, and the Great Britain and England really rejoiced about that. So anywhere he goes, he could go to Disneyland, and he's incapable of being left out of on his own.
It's true, and it is amazing because I heard several liberal pundits talk about the fact that look how popular Biden is in Ireland. People are coming out to see him, and they're saying everybody's been saying he's an embarrassment on the international stage. No, he's not. Look how well people are responding to him. And of course, none of them mentioned anything that he said, the response of the British people to his comments. I mean, he is a laughing stock on the international stage. You have countries now turning to China for help because they don't trust Biden.
Well, whoa. Countries like Israel uh, uh, asking or at least initiating conversations about China helping Israel with their conflict in Iran, and also Macron from France basically working with the Chinese to negotiate a deal in the Ukraine. This guy, I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
No, Biden has effectively presided over the demise of America as a superpower. We have we didn't even, it wasn't even taken from us. We gave the power away to China. And in fact, Monday, Biden has been going back and forth yelling about his green agenda and how they're going to push electric cars. On Monday, Chinese state media covered the fact that at some point this year, the Chinese government is going to ban exports of rare earth minerals,
Are they not?
which,
The big deal though is, are they not laughing at us?
oh,
It's not
yes,
even a game anymore. It's man against boy. It's a joke. They
it
don't
is
even give a shit.
absolutely ridiculous. We're not even playing on the same field anymore. China is playing chess and Biden is playing tiddlywinks.
It's funny you read my. Maybe we got to stop doing this show. We're reading each other's minds. That's exactly what I was going to say. Not checkers, but tiddlywinks. You are correct. But speaking of our esteemed leader, the IG, basically their report slams him and his administration for the complete dysfunction in terms of the Afghan withdrawal. That's nothing really. It just one more nail in the
It's
coffin.
it's not new, but it is significant because now you are seeing Biden's own administration strike back at him. And this, a couple of things actually happened in the last week or so. You had the IG report nailing Biden on his complete failure in Afghanistan, despite the White House's own report saying, oh, it was a success. The IG went, no, no, it wasn't. Um, the Office of the Special Counsel struck back at one of, I believe it was the Office of Health and Human Services head, uh, for doing political statements during official speeches. So which is a violation of the law. So there came across that. The Pentagon issued a report. Now, the report actually is several months old, but it just started circulating this month that Biden's green agenda is a threat to national security, not just because what we've talked about with rare earth materials and China, but because he is trying to place offshore wind farms where they are going to interfere with naval operations.
Again, if it was a B movie 30 years ago, a Weekend at Bernie's guy becomes president, you'd walk out of the theater. It's impossible. But what's not impossible is that 69% of people interviewed in a recent Quinnipiac poll have a negative view on the economy, and 97% think it's important. Uh, let's wrap that up with the probability of Biden being the nominee. I think is increasingly looking less and less. I mean, it's the economy stupid, it's
It is
incompetency stupid,
it is
and
the economy, stupid, but I don't think the Democrats are going to stand up to him. I think he is going to declare that he is running, and as soon as he does, he's the incumbent. So for the Democrats to try to do to him what they've been trying to do to Dianne Feinstein, it's I think that will tear the party apart and guarantee a Republican
do
presidency.
you think do you think the nominee for the Republicans will be Trump?
I don't know. I hope not.
I
I
hope
I
not either.
I hope Trump will either bow out gracefully or
That's never going to
he
happen.
yeah, or he will be beaten soundly in the early primaries and force somebody else to take over. And again, at this point in 2016, Trump hadn't even declared yet. So there's still somebody could come out of left field. We don't know who the nominee will be.
Okay,
I
anyone who's competent, Biden goes down, correct?
Yes.
There you go. So anyone that can fog up a mirror, not F it up, will destroy Biden. And by that time, let me just say another thing. The economy will be, if 78% think the economy's weak, right now, a year and a half from now, it's not getting any better.
No, and that's a big part of that study. It's not just that 69% think the economy is weak. I believe it was 73% think it's going to remain weak going forward. So that that is big, and that's actually the largest number in any economic survey going back at least to the 1980s.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. 100%. You're right. And let me throw this out also out at you. If you have Reagan presided early in his presidency over a horrible economy, but yet he was a likable person and could deflect to some degree and instill some degree of confidence. I'm talking early in his administration. Biden, I don't think is capable of that. I think he puts fuel on the fire. It makes people feel worse and more scared, is my
he
point.
does he does make people feel worse because he's shown no empathy for what people are seeing at the gas station, what they're seeing at the grocery store. The entire viewpoint of the White House is believe us, not what you're seeing with your own eyes. And that doesn't work. And Biden is facing the same problem in his first term that Reagan and George W. Bush faced at the end of their second terms, which does not bode well for a Biden reelection.
No, it does not. We'll see how it all unfolds, but very interesting. Um, we're doing pretty well, I believe, on Carnivore Radio, aren't we, Dr. Lopkin?
We are, and you can find us just about everywhere. If you're looking, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Radio at the Carnivore Radio website, xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin, and I'll see you and our listeners next week.
We'll see you then.